She won most talkative in high school, and she has been running her mouth ever since. Welcome to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast with your host, Lisa Fisher.
Okay, Susan, I've seen your before and after pictures for intermittent fasting. You have to tell all my listeners how the magic has worked for you, and I need to know how much weight you've lost.
Well, let's start. The magic has worked for me because it finally answered the question for what my body kept telling me what it wanted to do. But, you have all these medical advice and all these experts telling you the opposite. And so I would sometimes try and listen to my body but not tell anyone. But then when I was on a routine, I would keep healthy and do all the right things and, eat 3 meals a day because I could never quite get to 6. But
I got to 6. I'm not a quitter. I got to 6. Yeah.
Oh no, that was just too much thinking, too much to get ready for. But in my early 20s, I got up to 210 pounds, 205, 210 pounds. I was pretty much from the time I hit puberty, I started putting on weight.
Oh, really?
I was only maybe 5 kgs lighter at 12 years old than I am now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it just as soon
okay,
as...
do 5 kilograms, that is...
I'm trying to think. That's about 14
14.
pounds.
Okay, I thought about 12 or 14 pounds. Okay. Wow.
Okay, yeah.
And how tall a woman are you, Susan?
5'5".
Okay. So that was a lot of weight on a person who's 5'5".
Yes, as one of my PE teachers told me when I tried to do a flip and she tried to help me. I remember that moment.
That's what she said to you?
Well, no, it was more along the lines of, I think that will be the only one. I don't think I'll be able to help you any further.
That was a real boost of confidence for...
Oh, yeah, especially at 12 years old and
in
front of all your classmates.
That's right. Wow. We don't realize our words are so valuable and can really be very, very cutting. I mean, we can kind of joke about it now because you're on the other side and you've had this, your after pictures, like I said, and we're posting all that. And some of it, people are going to watch this via YouTube. Your friends will probably say, oh, that's Susan right there on the telly. And here we are watching. So you're in Baltimore, Maryland now, but originally from New Zealand, because you got to keep U.S. measurements for me. You can't go metric on me because I'm going, let me do the math.
I've got most of my US measurements for my journey because it's just anything in the past when I was thinking in metric.
Right. So when did you move to the US?
2015, I came here to go to, one of those things where you just suddenly want to change your life and you decide to sell everything up and go do university in another country.
Not really, but I know that people do that, but that's just very drastic.
Well, as a New Zealander, it's not. We're very much travellers. Part of our coming of age is spending 2 years overseas, which I did as well. I lived in London. So actually it was during that, it was with all of that travel that was when I could stabilise my weight because I wasn't in a routine. I was busy doing things. I wasn't thinking about eating breakfast, lunch and dinner. And more often than not, that's usually when I had some semblance of a plateau. But like I said, at my heaviest, I was 210. That was really, my early 20s. And then in between traveling, and at one point I was working in a summer camp here in the US and just being overweight and too big and wanting change. In the winters I would go home to New Zealand and I just decided this was the year I was going to make a change. And it just happened to be that my mother and my sisters were on a diet where it wasn't counting calories, it was more macros and just making sure you only had a certain percentage of starches and proteins a day. And I actually lost 50 pounds on that.
Wow.
And
could you keep it off?
I mostly. over the next 10 or so years, I would jump up and down, but I never got back up to 220. I think the highest I got up to was about 180. And then I was diagnosed in 2011 with a massive fibroid, which kind of gave some understanding to everything that had happened up to that point.
Yeah.
And I had surgery for it, and then, as hormones do when they're going through something like that, bounced all over the place. But I was just on this energy high as soon as I had the surgery. After I had the surgery, it was like new life had been given back to me, and I wasn't eating because I was too busy doing all these things, and I lost about 20 pounds. And then I realized now, when I look back, I was kind of, I don't like to use a term, but I was dirty fasting without understanding what I was actually doing, because I was
right. And for people listening, that's the term we use when you're committing yourself to not eating, but you might be consuming things that release insulin. And we know that we understand insulin's role is not only to usher glucose to the cells, but also fat storage. So when people do dirty fasting, that might mean you have a Diet Coke during what you call a fast, or you have stevia in something. So what was your dirty fasting sin?
Well, mine was more just that I didn't realize I was fasting. I just wasn't hungry, so I wasn't eating. And then I got to the point where, I would feel like I had to eat. I should be eating.
Or someone told you, you should be eating.
I was feeling a bit nauseous, so I knew I needed to get something in. And so I'd eat a little something, and that's as much as I could get in. And then I was off doing something else. And there was no thought process around I'm fasting now, because I'd never come across that concept before. It was just, I was too busy to do things. And then I had a problem with iron imbalances, and just from all of that, so I got that all straightened out. And then 5 years later, I decided to move here to the US. Went to university again, no routine, so was just eating when I could fit in time to eat. But it was the in-between years of 10 years I was working in New Zealand, routine. I'd put on the weight a little bit more, could come off when I would change and do something else. And it was just a yo-yo, bouncing back and forwards between about 150 and 180 pounds over those years. And then in 2018, my soon-to-be mother-in-law introduced me to Jen Stevens' Delay, Don't Deny.
Oh, it's your mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my husband is an amazing cook. And we were probably 7 months into our relationship at that point. And we were all sitting around the house, all the girls, talking about how an amazing cook he was, and how much weight we were all putting on because of it. And when you're in a new relationship, you don't want to say, no, I can't eat your food because I'm putting on too much weight. And so that's when the topic came up. Her niece had been doing Delay, Don't Deny, and it was something about the way she presented it that it suddenly clicked in me. Wow, I can actually eat at nighttime. All up to this point, any sort of time restricted eating was all about, eat in the morning, finish eating by 6 p.m., all the circadian rhythm, all those kind of things. And it was like, I can actually eat at nighttime. That's what I've always wanted to do. And it just clicked, and I downloaded the book on Kindle, and within, I didn't even finish a book before I started. I started the next day. And I
just ripped the Band-Aid off.
Band-Aid off, 20 hours.
20 hours, really?
20 hours, and I've never looked back.
And so that was 20. So is the husband an American then? So you were...
Yes.
Okay, so you're one of us now. Well,
I am.
Welcome. We're very
Thank
nice. Not as friendly as the New Zealanders and Australians, but we're okay. So he's an American. It's 2016. His
2018.
mother... Or 2018. So his
yeah.
mother then, was she fasting already or just telling you about it?
Just telling me about it because she'd just heard about it, and we
Okay.
both kind of started together. So,
And then what's your total success, Susan? How much
I
have
am
you
now
lost totally?
130 pounds.
Okay. Perfect
The
for your
lowest
height.
weight I've ever been in my life before since puberty.
Wow.
When they always talk about, I've heard a lot about returning to your teenage
High school.
years.
Yeah,
high
or
school
teenage years, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm way past that. So
Wow. So you
Yeah.
are slimmer than you were
absolutely.
as a teenager. So when you were 12 and the gym teacher did not encourage you about, your size and fitness ability, so your weight then crept up a little bit for a few years during your high school years, do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, just life and just and the thing was, like I've said, I'm not a breakfast or a lunch eater, so I'm not sure why or how, other than the hormones with the fibroid possibly having an impact. But it just kept adding up, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get it off. There was that period of the 50 pounds, but I know I tried the low-fat diet. I tried the Body for Life. So I've
Right.
done the exercise way. I've done it, and just nothing seemed to work, until I got on that balanced diet.
Right. And what you're saying too, though, Susan, is that those diets had plans that didn't really fit your body chemistry or design or style. And that's what people don't understand is our bio individuality. What works for you may not even work for your own, if you had a twin sister, because everybody's different. And so you wanted to eat at night, but you probably couldn't get any program that gave you the green light to eat at night. And you were thinking, but I'd rather eat at night.
Yeah, absolutely. I even at school, I didn't want to eat breakfast. I'm not a cereal person. I didn't want to make lunch to take lunch. It just didn't interest me.
Yeah.
I'm not, as it comes to diet, fat upsets me. Heavy fat load upsets me.
Oh.
Low fat obviously didn't work. Just a good balanced diet as well. I mean, I was brought up on meat, 3 veg and potatoes, the typical British regime, and a big house full of kids and lots of mouths to feed. We had what we were given, and
you ate it.
And we ate it, and that balanced diet of good vegetables, I think, should have set me up for life.
Well, again, bio-individuality, maybe it just wasn't the right fit, the hand and glove. It wasn't the right hand or the right glove to fit for you.
And it's a whole reaching teenage years and rebelling and you want all the things, all the pizzas and the fast foods that you haven't you've been denied for all those years. Because
it sounded so good, but it really wasn't. Because when you ate it, you didn't feel any better.
No,
and
not
that's
at all.
what I learned. My friend Laurie Lewis, who is a prolific intermittent faster, has said, and we also say at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, you have to find the foods you love that love you back. Mm-hmm. And so for you, it was not what you'd always been told would be the foods maybe that would love you back, because maybe they didn't work for you. So what time of day now do you open your eating window?
So even in maintenance, I keep it at end of day, 5 o'clock.
So you prefer that?
Because I can stay alert. I'm working during the day, and that alertness that I get is too good to give up. I get so much more done than without the afternoon slump.
And isn't that the opposite of what we've been told? Because breakfast was the most important meal of the day. Thank you, Dr. Kellogg, and cereal manufacturers. But the fact that we burn this, we fire adrenaline, our adrenals wake up, we fire adrenaline, we have so much energy, we're burning ketones for fuel, that we're so focused without eating. People say, no, I can't because I'd get too hungry. Address that. Did you think in the beginning you would get hungry and weak and you couldn't do your work then?
No, I think because Jen addressed that in her book.
Oh,
what
true.
I did find was that, and again, it was addressed in the book, so I was ready for it, was as soon as I did open my window, I binged on anything I could get my hands on. And I just keep telling myself this is fine. It's going to work its way out. And it did. After 3 weeks, my body adjusted, and I no longer felt the need to binge. So
you really were having a period of just overeating, you think, those first few weeks?
Well, not being prepared when my window did open with good food.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, not that we tend to have a lot of junk in our house anyway.
Right.
So, it was more just what came to hand.
But don't you notice that, or for me, once I opened my window and that my brain, my pituitary tells the pancreas to release the insulin, I'm hungrier then on those first few bites than I am for the rest of the day or meal, because then I get true hunger. I can buy some time and not eat and not eat and not eat. But then when it's time to eat, I'm really hungry.
Absolutely. And that's
it's the craziest thing.
Yeah. And once I have to actually hold myself back, because we do eat later. So I open with a snack, and then later we have a meal. And I have to keep that in mind, because this is just a snack. So just hold back, because, I'll be sharing a meal with my husband later, and he made it, so he would be upset if I didn't eat it.
Right. I did that the other day. I typically like a window from about 2 to 6 in the afternoon, but I knew we were having dinner with friends, and it had been about 22, 23 hours, and I knew the dinner was still a few hours away. So I was like, I just need some hummus. So I want some hummus and gluten-free crackers, to open my window. And then I remember thinking, I'm really hungry now. So I just had to stay busy until we went to dinner. And then I had cottage pie. I had English cottage pie, because I just wanted something really hearty and good. Mm-hmm. It's funny, just as we're talking about, good British foods or down under foods, maybe they have it there too. But it was the mindset of telling myself, Susan, of saying, simmer down, don't eat anymore, because we're going to have a proper dinner together with a group of people, and I was going to have a cocktail, and I knew I would. But I knew it's funny too, the regulatory process that happens once you start intermittent fasting, you really put the fork down, because people say, oh, but I'm going to overeat. I say, once you get to a point, you truly do put the fork down. I swallowed because I'm thinking about that delicious food, and I don't want to overeat. Because I know I can eat it tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I can wrap it up because it's so enjoyable. But all of a sudden, do you notice when you're full, you're full?
Oh, absolutely. I call it the body sigh. When you get so far through the meal, and then your body just relaxes.
Yes.
And the next bite isn't enjoyable as the first bite, and you're like, okay, I've had enough. I'm done.
Yes. People need to hear that. They say there truly is something physiologically that when we reach satiety, and that's the fancy term for satiated or full, that we go, we exhale. And science has shown us, Susan, and you're telling it, the next few bites are not as delicious. The most delicious bites are those first bites of hummus I had, and those first few bites of my cottage pie I was eating. And I had some macaroni and cheese, and I was sipping my cocktail, and then I put the fork down. I was done. Mm-hmm. And as former overeaters, I was a former overeater because people told me I had to eat 6 times a day. And when you're eating 6 times a day, you're never full. It's the opposite.
Or empty your plate, or it's got to be eaten. It can't be thrown away.
If it's on your plate, that's right. It has to be eaten. And I just tell myself, I have to have this pep talk with myself. I'm going to eat that tomorrow. It's fine. I don't have to have it now. I could throw away or throw out the last few sips of something. If there's a little glass, if there's 2 sips left of my wine glass, sometimes I'm like, oh, but I have to drink it. And I tell myself, it's like I'm telling my body who's boss. Mm-hmm. I take it and I throw it away in the sink and wash the glass out and then put it in the dishwasher, whatever I'm going to do, because I don't have to have it.
Exactly. I distinctly remember the first time I hit that point where appetite correction, and we were having a meal, and I had a glass of wine, and we had a cookie aside for dessert, and
a biscuit. Isn't that what you call a biscuit?
A biscuit. Yeah. I've gotten used to translating.
Right, I love it.
Although I have got my husband saying a few Kiwi terms as well.
He does. So cute.
But we nearly finished the meal, and I'm just like, I just can't have another bite. And you know what? I can't finish my wine either. I'm
Right.
done.
Right.
And then later on, my husband came to bed and said, well, I ate your cookie. But
I love that about him. Good old American right there. There's food on the table. They're going to get it.
But the funny thing is, over time, even though he doesn't do intermittent fasting, he's been my biggest supporter, but he doesn't do it himself. He naturally does it, but not in any big way. But his appetite has been corrected as well, where the meals he serves up are half the size that they used to be.
Really?
Yeah. And he's had to really tone down the size of like the food he makes. And we were talking the other day, like how much, like we used to get meat and it used to he used to cook it all in one meal, and now it's been spread over 3 or 4 meals. So
aren't the cost savings impressive when you do intermittent fasting?
Yes, and the shopping, shopping.
Right. My grocery trips are just for one meal a day, and then sometimes my husband might have lunch because that's the way he does it. My husband doesn't, need to lose a pound, but he just naturally kind of does it. But he probably has more frequency of eating than I do. But just the amount of food that we've reduced, the amount of waste you reduce because you don't buy as much.
Yeah, well,
and also just the mindless trips to pick up French fries at the drive-thru. Just not going to do it. I don't need it.
Yeah. We now, he'll make dinner and then he'll take leftovers for lunch the next day, and then I'll have any excess leftovers as
good
to open my window. And so really we're making one meal last for the whole day.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Now, does he eat breakfast still?
No. The only time he, in his the job he does, has him cooking for his clients, so sometimes he'll join them, but unless he's in that situation, he doesn't. And he naturally was like that when I first met him.
Okay.
And I was the one telling him he needed to eat more because that's what I'd been told.
That's right. Now, is he a professional chef then?
No, he just works with one-on-one with clients. So.
Okay, but they like it when he's cooking.
Yes.
Sounds like everybody
does.
It. Right. Okay, so did his mother-in-law end up losing weight with intermittent fasting?
Yes, she did. Yeah, she got to goal before I did. She had a lot less to lose, but yeah, she still does it. We both do it, and then I've introduced a lot of people to it. My parents in New Zealand both do it. They're in their 70s. Their meal is during the day. They're in lockdown at the moment, so they meet up with my uncle and go for a walk on the beach with their latte and their snack, and then they come back and have lunch. And
that's so cute.
Yeah.
I love the little routines people get with it, like that, just knowing, or I've heard Jen Stevens say, now I know hers has changed and mine has too, and I think we all go through a metamorphosis, but she would open her window at like maybe 4 or 5 o'clock with olives and hummus, a little snack. It's just the rituals we like. And I think that kind of is indicative of the American, or just maybe human culture, is that we are creatures of habit. And so a lot of our eating and consumption is based on just what we've known, and it gave us comfort. But if you can pull back, you realize, I really just don't need all that food.
No. And our tastes have changed over time as well.
Absolutely.
I didn't drink coffee for 20 years because when I was 21, I stopped drinking it because I couldn't drink it without milk and sugar. I found it too bitter, well, definitely the sugar. And then I was listening to Jen and Melanie talk about the benefits of coffee and autophagy. And so I thought, I really do feel like something different. I'm going to try coffee this morning. And I've been drinking it every morning since. And again,
you drink it black every day?
Black.
Yeah.
And my husband always had it with sweetener and creamer. And I wasn't eating it, drinking it. So I stopped buying sweetener. If he wanted it, he had to go buy it. So he stopped
That's
buying
good.
it. And then there was a period where I couldn't drink milk. I was having issues with milk. So I stopped buying milk for him. And now the first time he said he drove to work and he went, "This coffee tastes so good. I can't believe I wasted all these years drinking it with creamer and sugar." And we're both black coffee drinkers now.
People right now are turning off their devices saying that cannot be true. Black coffee can't be good. So many. I'm just not a coffee drinker anyway, so none of it. I don't like the bitter profile. But the people who've made the switch, like you have, they've left the candy coffee, and they're drinking black coffee. Black coffee, scientifically, we have research on this that has shown that it helps our bodies reach autophagy, which you and I can talk about easily, but some people may not know. It's that magical time in your body where your body is self-cleaning. That's what autophagy is, autophagy means. And it's a magical time because, as you know, it reduces risks of dementia, type 2 diabetes. Even cancer patients are told now, go home and fast so you can reach autophagy. Well, you're getting there quicker with that nasty old bitter black coffee you're drinking.
And that's the only reason I tried it again, was because of those benefits. And it's those benefits and it's autophagy that keeps my maintenance window where it is, because I want as much of that as possible. It's not the weight loss. I don't need to lose any more weight, but I want the health benefits.
Yeah, right. And that's what we really have all come to the table. And I hope that's what people walk away with. It's a health plan with the side effect of weight loss. And that's what Gene Stevens has famously coined, because I don't think we need to be some skinny society. Like, I don't think, as we know, as our bodies age, we might hold on to some weight. You know, I weigh more than I did when I was in high school, but I'm slim. I'm just the weight I am. So that's what I'm saying. I don't do this so I can have a smaller number on the scale, as much as just to feel better. And so that's why I want some people to get the number out of their mind. And that's why Jen Stevens says she got rid of the scale, because it was not indicative of her tremendous weight loss success. And she went from 210 to about 130. She's probably about your size. I think she says she's 5'4", but small. She has a real small, petite frame. And when the scale told her she'd only lost, I think it's 2 pounds, and it was 2 sizes, she said, well, be gone. Forget it. I mean, you know, she was in a 0. She's now like a double 0. She's really small. But, you know, just to show you right there that we're too hung up on that arbitrary number. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's true.
And it's true. And you have so much emotional baggage around that number. And actually that was one of my benefits of moving here to the US, because I moved from the metric system to the imperial system.
Yes.
And, so I deliberately made the change to pounds on my scales because I didn't have any emotional baggage around pounds. It was just a number.
That's interesting. It's a new number.
It's just a number on a
yeah.
And
right, that's good.
And the same with clothing. Clothing sizes in New Zealand are completely different.
Right.
I mean, I lost a dress size. I lost a digit just by getting on a plane.
Right.
I was a
You're
size 14
already.
and I was an 8 when I got here.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so again, clothing sizes lost any emotional attachment to the number on the label, because it was just a size that I had to buy. I mean, now I'm really excited about going home, because as an adult, I will never have gone into dress shops looking for clothing at the size I am now. So.
Right. And you feel better flying and getting around and just being slimmer. The slimmer Susan is probably more comfortable in her skin. How often do you weigh, Susan?
I jump on every morning, but it's just,
you do.
I just because it's there. I'm trying to step away from doing that, but it's just more of an interest point. You know, making sure that it's not going up, rather than worrying about whether it's going down.
Let's say it goes up. In hindsight, being 2020, what do you think that is? Sometimes you think it's Do you think it's you've overeaten, or hormonal, or the foods? Again, you love the foods that love you back. You didn't. The foods didn't love you back. What do you think?
Well, I actually just have been through that period over the last year, but predominantly over the Christmas period, because we were going through, we got married last year, and then there's a whole green card, the immigration process of having me stay here, and that is stressful in its own. But you add COVID on top of that, and you're trying to get paperwork out of government departments that have closed down.
Oh gosh!
And just everything, and then my current employment lapsed because of the timing and not being able to work even. And luckily, they held my job, but just having all of that stress, my weight did go up about 6 to 8 pounds. And I just keep telling myself, this is stress, this is cortisol, this is what it does. When there's a light, and when that light arrives, it will take care of itself. And sure enough, like literally 3 weeks after we got my employment back and got everything worked out, the weight just dropped off. It just disappeared without me having to change anything.
People really need to hear that, Susan. What you're saying is, our bodies have protective measures not knowing that we're going into battle, not knowing. So we release this cortisol that gives us that tire, spare tire around our waist is where a lot of people notice it, or just, you just feel fluffier. Mm-hmm. And it's just your cortisol. It's your body communicating with you, and it's times of stress. Now, your stress, you were able to, it was alleviated by the paperwork being absolved, the job situation being secure and all that. Some people who really struggle sometimes are in the middle of a crisis and they don't really see the end. Mm-hmm. And that's where maybe put the scale away for a minute.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, just
don't
take care
do anything
of you.
Because it derails you more. That scale yells louder than any PE teacher could have ever yelled at you, because of, like you said, the emotional baggage. And since we're all the imperial system where I am and my family, I'm not going metric. Maybe I need to go metric to have a new number.
Although the pounds is a smaller number, so change the difference quicker.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, it's just something that we have to remember, that our bodies, the Bible says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And in that, sometimes our bodies are doing things that were really designed thinking it was protecting us, but sabotages what our designs are, or desires. I've told this before, but just talking to you, it reminds me, at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where I've been a student, one of our instructors was from New Zealand and told a neat story about how she had been a runner and she was a health coach, and she had some clients. And she had this one client who came to her, and she had trained for the New York City Marathon. And during her 9 months, which is pretty long to train for something, but she'd seen her as a client for 9 months, she had filled out her food diaries every day, turned them in, logged 40 to 90 miles a week running. She gained 27 pounds. Wow. Her body was saying, I don't like this. Mm-hmm.
Because you can't gain that much muscle mass from.
No. You couldn't run. Your legs are harder to run. It's harder to run. No, not at all. You really would slim down, or you would develop. And we know that muscle and fat, 5 pounds of muscle weighs the same 5 pounds of fat, but the muscle takes up less space. But she was not in there, cheering herself that she had even lost inches. No, she'd gained 27 pounds. Wow. And so the girl from New Zealand, who was our instructor, said that she was with a wellness facility in Manhattan, and those people were doing Tai Chi every day for 20 minutes, which is slight movement that you're kind of thinking, I shaved my legs for this? Like, this is really a thing? 20 minutes of Tai Chi, and then, or maybe they did like a 20-minute walk in one class of Tai Chi. And the New Zealand instructor said her clothes fell off her. She was doing less. And so that's what people need to be not so hard on themselves, and maybe to accept the fact that you are going through a cortisol struggle. Mm-hmm. And then maybe it's just go outside and get sunlight. Mm-hmm. Walk around for 20 minutes, breathe in that fresh air, and that's it. But
find the thing that gives you calm.
So in the U.S., we had this big push in the 80s and 90s with aerobic activity, gym memberships. Jane Fonda was a thing in the 80s, 40 years ago. I remember in college, we were all doing Jane Fonda, scissor kicks, and all these things. High impact, terrible on our knees. And so I think we've moved away from that in the U.S., but was that a thing globally? Like, do you remember in New Zealand, were they also running and killing it?
They're still doing it. New Zealand is very body conscious, very much into exercise and being out and about, and it's a whole outdoors kind of lifestyle. But to be after work, to come home and go for a run around the streets, to see people out running, not with dogs, not taking the dogs for a run, just out going for a run, running up the stairs, doing exercise, physical activity in front of, just out in public is just common. You don't think twice about it. I mean, I trained I did 2 half marathons in New Zealand, even at the weight I was at.
Really?
I wanted to cross the Auckland Harbour Bridge, and you only get to do that if you join the marathon.
Wow.
So, but the second time I did it, I did it right after I had the fibroid surgery, and I didn't realize I had an iron deficiency at that point, and I got to the end of it, and I was like, I've just run a half marathon. I should be feeling amazing, and I was just depleted. I had
tired.
It wasn't even like there was no even energy left to celebrate what I'd just achieved.
Right.
It was
no
just
adrenaline.
No adrenaline.
Nothing.
No nothing.
Yeah.
And it was just, it shouldn't be like this.
Which also is a good point for people to hear, that we blame everything on depression, because it's easier for a doctor to write a prescription for an antidepressant than to really dig deep and find out. So how did you get to the point where were you then telling your healthcare provider, I'm not right?
I did. And it turned out I was severely deficient in B12 and iron. And
what caused that? Was that from blood loss after the surgery?
No, I think it was more to do with just having the fibroid. I called it my little vampire. I was equivalent to 5 months pregnant for 2 years.
Is that right?
I just didn't know that's why what I thought was.
How many pounds was that fibroid, or were they?
It was about 750 grams. So I'm not sure. That would probably be
You've
around
lost me on that one.
1.8 pounds.
That's a lot. I had a friend who her abdomen was getting bigger, and she was like, well, I'm going to have liposuction, and went to her doctor, and he goes, I can't help you, because he said, you need an ultrasound, you have fibroids. And so it totally depleted her.
Yeah, I went downhill so fast. The 5 weeks between being diagnosed and having the surgery, I was literally I would come home, sleep, get up, go to work the next morning. I'd have to come home in the afternoon to have an afternoon nap to be able to go back to work and finish off the day, and then come home and go straight back to sleep by the time.
And so what year was that, Susan?
2018, March 2018.
Wow. And so then your weight loss journey in earnest with intermittent fasting was how much after that?
It was 5 years after that. Okay. 5 years. Sorry.
Wait, 2013?
No, 7 years after that.
Wait, so you started, I'm sorry, what was the year you had the fibroids?
I started intermittent fasting in 2018, and the surgery was in 2011.
Oh, 11. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so did you feel bad that whole time until you started intermittent fasting?
No, I was just living my weight would go up and down according to what I was doing at the time. I mean, immediately after the surgery, like I said, I dropped 20 pounds. And then once we got my iron and B12 sorted out, my energy levels started coming back up again, and then so it was just this roller coaster of up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
But I never got back up to over the 180 mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, 180 was too much for your frame.
Oh, absolutely.
You just felt like it was too much. Okay, one thing I love to talk about are people's non-scale victories. We call them NSVs in the intermittent fasting biz. But what are some of your NSVs that we're not looking at the scale, but some things you think intermittent fasting allowed me to do this? What is it?
Oh, it's the little things like just you have this image in your head of when you've always been big. That's the image you carry in your head, and even when you lose the weight, that. Like I still have this image in my head of 180-pound Susan, and just walking out. I had an experience last week where I was first time out in public at a work conference, walking out of the restroom stall and seeing this body in front of me, reflection in the mirror, and it's like, wow, she's really small. That's me.
Oh my goodness!
Just
what a great victory!
Yeah, putting an apron on or anything that's a belt and tying it up, and suddenly the distance is so much shorter. Just the wearing a big belt and not worrying about how the big bow is going to make you look bigger. Just all those little things.
You can wear horizontal stripes and you wouldn't look wide.
Absolutely, I do. I've gone out and bought horizontal stripes.
There you go. The rest of us, not so much, but no, that's great.
Yeah. My husband was.
Yeah.
There is one thing, that question that keeps coming up for women, guys, you can close your ears, is how does it change breast size? I am naturally a larger girl when it comes to breast size.
Yes.
I lost the weight there, even though I swore to my husband it was never going to happen, because it never has. And it never has with anyone else in my family until I saw my mother after she'd been doing intermittent fasting. And I went, oh, well maybe I'm wrong. But I did. I dropped 2 sizes. And it was about that time I was going for my mammogram. And they were looking very deflated. But it was like, hey, I've lost all this weight. It's okay. I can deal with this. I can hide these. They bounced back. I'm happy to say. And actually, I wasn't the first person to notice that. But yes, they did. At 46 years old, they bounced back.
That is unbelievable. There are cosmetic surgeons right now listening going, she's going to run me out of business.
Yeah. No, they did repair themselves. Autophagy for the win.
Yeah. And that's it. Autophagy has so many, and I say that unicorn magic about autophagy, what it does. And so one thing autophagy does, we know, it lowers the insulin load. And so we're now seeing that insulin, not blood glucose, but insulin is probably the reason for our demise, our physical demise, our mental demise. They're seeing that dementia patients, only like 10% of them, maybe, I think is a statistic, have a familial link from family. 90% was lifestyle. And we know with lifestyle, it's high. It's these insulin levels. So by keeping your insulin levels low, or what's good for your body, you maybe haven't lost some of the tissue that dissipated, or some other things that might happen to somebody else. It was kind of like when Oprah, so here in the US, Oprah did this big diet in the 80s. I don't know if it was worldwide, but it was all the thing.
Oh yes,
and
it was worldwide.
It was like Medifast,
yes.
Right? She drank something, and she came out and she looked like she had been deflated, like a balloon, just. And that's the thing about intermittent fasting. It doesn't produce a gaunt look.
No.
We still have collagen in our cheeks. I'm looking, I'm thinking about myself, or in our hands, or in our body. It's the exact opposite of what a diet does.
And I get so many times, we've been in lockdown for a long period. I'm seeing people for the first time really since I got to goal. And the first thing they always say to me is your face is glowing. You're glowing. And it's not the weight loss that they notice first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's a great perspective. And that's the other thing. So many people gained weight during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably lost the brunt, or much of yours, or kept it off since the pandemic, right?
I reached goal. I was a very slow loser. I lost about 0.5 pound a week. But I reached goal in May 31st of May last year, just in time because
2020.
2020,
right?
Yeah,
okay,
because
okay.
I'd gone wedding dress shopping in February. It's a great motivator for getting.
Yeah.
I had hit a plateau. I was like, no, I've got to bump this. So I gave up sweets. I tried to trim my window down. I've got to get goal by my wedding. This was it was always going to be a small intimate wedding even before COVID, with the big wedding to come later, which we've had to delay.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure I got to goal by my first wedding. And so 31st of May, I reached goal. And now I get to look at my wedding photos. There's another non-scale victory. I get to look at my wedding photos, and I love my wedding photos. And it's,
that makes you want to cry. That's so sweet.
Because it's so often how, you're whatever weight you were when you got married, and those are the photos you've got to live with for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I love my photos.
What size gown did you get?
Well, I actually ended up. This is what was so funny. I actually ended up getting a large because it was online, and I knew I had to accommodate the top half, and it was a dress. It was way too big. The things Kiwis will do when we need to just get things done. So on my wedding day, we have a photo of my dress clipped together with at the back with a bag holder holding the back together so that
like
my dress stayed up.
Lay's potato chip bag. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, just to hold my dress together because I couldn't go in and get it resized.
Wow. And that's what really the models do, because when you see the models in the photos, they're like a size 0, but they're wearing something that's a 4, and they clamp it together is what they say in the back. So that you were just a high fashion model that day.
And I had my veil covering it, and I was like, what? At that point, perfect. I was just like, let's get this thing done.
Let's just get married. Yeah. Let's just get this done. I know a lot of people ask you, and it doesn't really matter, but I would like to know some of the things you like to eat, because people always want to know, well, what do you eat? Do you eat sweets? Do you drink wine? So I'm asking you, you quit sweets for a minute.
I did.
In order to reach your goal.
Again, another non-scale victory. I used to love baking as a kid. I had, you give it up in all those years of trying to get your weight down. And so I've rediscovered my love of baking.
Good.
My husband has introduced me to, I'm a very science-minded person, so he introduced me to America's Test Kitchen and Cook's Country.
Yes, good.
Yes. And I've just gone crazy on baking everything and anything American out of these books.
That's so exciting.
So I love to bake. He's the cook, I'm the baker. I do all our own bread. So I'm just getting back involved in the kitchen with things I love, leaving him to do what he loves. I do eat sweets, but it's like a 3-bite piece. It's not the big American size plate of sweets.
And it's window worthy. You're not eating it just to eat it. You're eating what you really, really want.
And
what sounds delicious.
I made with my own hands, especially when it comes to bread. That's just so satisfying.
Oh my gosh, my mouth is watering.
And so we try to stay away from processed foods. We shop the outside of the store,
grocery store, right?
But we eat a lot of American foods. The cheesesteaks. He's from Philadelphia. Cheesesteaks, homemade hamburgers. He loves his rice and beans. Everything with rice and beans. Stir fry with rice and beans. Okay. Jambalaya. Po' boys. He's introduced me.
So he's from Philly though, but he's like some Cajun foods.
Yes.
New Orleans. Cajun
whenever
foods,
he gets introduced to something else, he has to figure out how to make it. So
good.
Yeah.
And then you're seeing a well-balanced diet for you. It does include carbs and meats.
Yeah, and he has actually increased my my protein intake. He's a man. He cooks a lot more with protein.
Yeah. Sure.
Beans. I hated beans. But again, it was one of those things I knew I needed more fiber in my diet. He loves them.
Yeah.
I'm going to... And when my parents came for a visit right before the pandemic, my mother made me eat one forkful. And from then it was like, okay, if I just do one forkful each meal, I'll get to it. So
So you're looking at that from a nutritional component, not a diet axiom or rule. You're doing it for the because beans have fiber.
Yes, it's good for my body. This is what I need. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you, and I know you are by listening to, you're pickier than, we talk about what's window worthy. Is it worth the, when someone offers you your favorite meal and it's 3 p.m, you have to decide, is it window worthy? So have you noticed that transition into really eating the food, really good foods during your window?
Mm-hmm. But if I am out and about, and even during my journey, if it was a special occasion, I would extend my window. It was one day. It was, I'm here with these people celebrating or doing whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's another day. I've got the rest of my life to get to goal.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
But I'm living life right now. So
What time of day was your wedding?
It was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon with 90-degree weather.
No. So then did you not eat at the reception, or did you then?
No, I did. I had my window.
Okay.
I had to have my glass of champagne. I mean, I was drinking wine. I've only February this year, I've actually stopped drinking. But that was again more because I realized I was having issues with sleeping. It's actually my electrolyte issues. So I'm building up my electrolytes, magnesium. And so now I can enjoy the occasional glass of wine. But if I stop eating or drinking anything, it's because my body's dictating it.
Yeah. And they say that changes throughout our life too.
Mm-hmm.
That what works now in 5 years may not be what works for our bodies. And you also mentioned about the processed foods. If people only understood what is involved in the manufacture of these, what we call Franken foods, it's to keep you hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And the cow, when we slaughter the cow and bring him to the grocery store and he's a steak, he wasn't developed so that you would eat 15 burgers. But Lay's potato chips sure were.
Yeah.
That you'd eat 15,000 potato chips. So, and seeing that, again, if we go back to the term satiety, there's more satiety in the outer perimeter of that grocery store. And that's what I love hearing. I have one client who's gone from 360 US, obviously, to about 280 now. He's a chef, a very well-known chef in the state. And he called me one time and said, "I'm really mad at you." I said, "Why?" And he goes, "I crave Brussels sprouts now." I go, "I'm sorry." He said, he wanted highly nutritious foods. And he called me last week with my favorite non-scale victory. He said, "I used to have to get out of the shower and put a beach towel around me." He goes, "Now I can use just a bath towel. It fits." And I thought, that's almost too much information. But, I thought it was just such a good picture to all of us that he's gone from the really big towel to just a normal size towel. And that he can fit in normal size, seats and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that. Just being able to get to the point where I could put a towel around me and latch it in, and it would stay.
Not have a gap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's so many.
Okay, let's go back to when you were reducing through really hardcore intermittent fasting. Did you weighed every day? Because the thing that people need to understand, and this is what the same chef, he'll call me and go, "I'm up 4 pounds." And then the next day he's down 4 pounds. And so I said, well, simmer down, don't get excited. You could have eaten something. You may not have pooped that day. I don't know. You could have had wine. I don't know. It could be something. But when you weighed every day, when did you get to the point, Susan, where you didn't panic when you came up a couple of pounds, when you realized it could have been hormonal or something you ate?
I guess I used the Fitbit app. That's the only app I used.
Good,
I didn't use any window app, or I didn't track my fast or anything. It was just 5 o'clock. That was the time. So I would just log my weight every day, and then the Fitbit app shows you your downwards.
Yes.
So I could track it rather than just relying on the number that I saw that day.
Yeah. Because this is what I was trying to tell him. I said, if you weigh every day, do a 7-day average, and mark it that way. Because I said, otherwise, you'll call me and say, "This doesn't work." And I go, "Well, don't look at me. I'm not doing anything." And it is what's funny with some of my clients. I have one who, he's lost 10 pounds, which I think is great. But his mind, because he knew the chef, by now he wanted to have lost 30 or 40. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I'm not doing this anymore. And I mean, I don't get a commission. I don't care if he doesn't do it, but I just think, give your body some time. Because you were saying half a pound a week. I need to tell him about you. A half a pound a week. So in a month, you might just lose 2 pounds?
Yeah. Yeah. It took 18 months to lose 35 pounds.
Wow. So that just shows you that we're all so different. I'm going to use you as an example. I'm going to send him this podcast episode.
Please do.
And tell him to listen. Because it is encouraging to know that slow people still lose weight. Mm-hmm. And some people have fast weight loss. And here you are at your goal weight, smaller than you were in junior high, middle school, high school, or whatever those grades were till now. So have you been back home? Have you been to New Zealand since you've lost the weight then?
No, because we've been in...
because after that lockdown and everything.
And New Zealand's been closed, so...
So they're not letting anybody in, are they?
Oh, well, they are, but it involves 2 weeks
like a 14-day.
Yeah.
That'd be hard.
And expensive.
So, yes, and right, because you have to go to a hotel, don't you? I mean, you have to go someplace. I just saw a family do that the other day. I thought they were sick. I thought that's what they meant. And they said, no, we've been now released from quarantine and we can get out and about.
Yes.
And I went, wow, 14 days in a hotel. That's a lot of money and a lot of time. Well, Susan, you're doing great. You're encouraging people with your story and keep telling it. And this is just your second podcast interview. Is that correct?
That's right.
Were you on Graham Curry's? Is that where?
That was
because it was my producer, Darren, was the one who said, we've got to get this girl, and we love Graham. I've interviewed Graham, and also is he Australia? Yeah, he's Australian.
No, he's a New Zealander who lives in Australia.
He is New Zealand. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is
did you know
very standard, typical for all of us. I remember a statistic when I was in high school, something like when there was 3 million people in New Zealand, there were actually 6 million New Zealand passports.
Oh.
But all the people, all the New Zealanders who didn't live in the country, that's how many. That's how we travel.
Got it. Yeah, I love that. I didn't know that there was a 2-year incentive or something to get people to do something. It's more
just what we do. It's just
cultural.
Yeah, it's just cultural. Yeah.
Well, our cultural norms are overeating and sitting in front of our devices too long. So we're trying to change that one person at a time. Okay, absolutely. Susan, great. You keep going, and you keep telling everybody, and I'm going to shout it with them. You've done a great job.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thanks for listening to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and download all the episodes and leave a review, won't you? The Lisa Fisher Said podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.